A resonating question among believers is, when will I be able to trust God the way someone else does? I see how it seems that they easily trust God in every situation. And I want to know, when am I going to get to a point where I can just say God's got it all under control? Now, superficially, Brother Kendrick, we know this. Superficially, many people say that. I trust the Lord is going to handle it. Superficially means that not really, sort of, kind of, just the same way everybody else does. Superficially means that you really may not trust God, but it's what everybody say. And so we say, I trust God, that he's going to handle it. But if you trust God the way you say, why are you still worried about it? Well, you say, Pastor, I'm not worried about it, I'm just concerned. And I'm just trying to figure out, at what point is it that you're going to get where you realize that you really can't do anything about it and that God is the only one can help it? At what point are you going to be willing to say, God, you know what? Because I know you're the only one to handle it, I'm through with it. When you going to stop getting mad about the same thing you've been getting mad about all this time when you still can't change it? You're getting frustrated because in most cases, every situation that you are upset about is a situation you can't change. But then you say, I trust God. The day that you trust God will be the day when it's good for you. The Hebrew boys, they came right before this Daniel issue. These Hebrew boys, they said, well, if the Lord will deliver us, so be it. But if not, their thing was either way. It's up to God, I'm good. Burn me up, bring me out. We good. Whatever y'all got to do. Can you really say that? Kicked out of my house, can't pay my bills or pay them on time. Lord, either way, I'm good. If he leave or she leave, either way, I'm good. Whatever your will is, I'm good. Do you really trust God like that? We'll see. Daniel is going to teach us how and at what point we'll begin to trust God in everything. Because I've told you before, Daniel does not start a prayer meeting in the lion's den. It's really interesting. I'm going to tell you a few other things. And let me tell you how he ended up in the lion's den in the first place. Most of us don't know that. We know the miracle. We don't know how he ended up there. He ended up there because the king, who was Darius, decided to put princes and presidents over the region. And Daniel had begun to distinguish himself from the other presidents. He was what was considered to be a president over other people. And Darius was going to put him over everything because he began to show himself to have a strong spirit. And so, of course, as usual, whenever black people get elevated, other folks get jealous. And as soon as they get jealous, then they start to comprise a way by which they can come against you. So they found a way to come against Daniel. And so they figured out, hey, we don't know what we can do in this situation, what we can do in that. We got to figure out something to get Daniel in trouble. And Daniel, the only thing they could find is that Daniel is faithful. So now we got to find something that's wrapped up in his faithfulness that's going to get him in trouble. Let me tell you something else. The decree that went out that said that nobody should pray, this was what they asked, nobody should pray or praise any other god other than the king for 30 days. For 30 days, you ain't going to do nothing. Don't pray to nobody. Don't exalt anybody else. Just the king for 30 days. That was what the law became. That's what they came up with. They got Darius to sign off on it. Let's see. Daniel, knowing this because he was a president, and the scripture will tell you, when he knew it, he went up to his room and prayed in an open window. Daniel knew that if I do this, I should get put in the lion's den. That's what the law said. To the point that the Medes and the Persians, if I was written it, nobody could revoke it. That's right. That's right. So Daniel understood under the law which he was put over, that according to the law, he should be put in jail if he found praying. Right. So instead of praying in his closet, he prayed in an open window, facing Jerusalem. They knew he was going to do that because he did it all the time. But Daniel was so trusting in God that he was like, God, I'm not going to part ways with you so I can please them. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing for you.
All right.
When you understand that you have decided that my faithfulness to God is such that I realize the byproduct of faithfulness is God being faithful to me. Until you've been faithful to God, you ain't going to never trust him. Yeah, because if you ain't never faithful to God, then everything in your life with God is unfaithful. Right. That means that I have to, here it is. If I've always been unfaithful to God, I'm trying to trust him when I'm at the club. And God just doesn't always help you quite the same in the club as he does when you're in his will.
That's right. Come on, please, Pastor.
So you can get beat up in the club.
That's right.
Because I don't owe you anything if you outside of my will. But I notice when I'm faithful to God, he tends to protect me even when I'm in other situations. So when I'm not faithful to God, then God let me go. God will let me, listen. Come here, David. What happened? See, it was nothing big. She was just fine and she was sitting on the rooftop. That's all it was.
Come on, Pastor.
Now, I was supposed to be at war, but instead of being faithful to God, I went to spend time with her. And when I went to go spend time with her, because I was unfaithful to her, she got pregnant. And because she got pregnant, because I was being unfaithful to God, then I ended up killing her husband. So now not only am I an adulterer, I'm now a murderer because I've been unfaithful. But if I had been faithful, I would have been at war, and God would have protected us at war. We would have won the war, and they would have given me the victorious name because of what I did while I was being faithful. But because I was unfaithful, I got her pregnant, and I became a murderer and an adulterer. You're never going to trust God until you've been faithful to God. Now you should, now here's the Christian in me, you should trust him out 2 ways about it. But the reality of it is until you start finding yourself being faithful to God's will and seeing God deal with you, you ain't going to be faithful to him. Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it's real hard for you to be faithful to somebody that ain't faithful to you. That's right. And how you know that somebody's going to be faithful to you unless you've been faithful to them? And so if you ain't never been faithful to God, you can't see God being faithful to you because you unfaithful. You don't know what a faithful relationship looks like. And even though, and here's the thing, why do I keep falling off the wagon? God keeps protecting me. God keeps watching over me. God keeps being faithful. But because you're unfaithful, you just waiting on a whooping. And because you're unfaithful and waiting on a whooping, you're really depending on God to do something bad to you because you deserve it. And so it's hard to trust him when you're waiting on him to do something you ought to get. You ought to get it. And you're waiting on him to do it. And so you kind of wondering just how far, he going to do something after a while. If I just keep sleeping around, something going to happen. I'm going to go on and do it, but something going to happen. So your unfaithfulness to God keeps you from trusting him. Because when you was at home, whenever you screwed up, your parents whooped you. Now, before they didn't treat me like when I was doing good, they didn't do me like that. But every time it seemed like I messed up, they turn. So you're waiting on God to turn. It's natural. It's not spiritual, but it is natural.